Hello everyone, so today I wanted to take a look at a new feature here in ZBrush 2024, which is called Cut and Separate. And let's just take a look and see how maybe we can apply it in something that we create. Alright, so in this example, let's just make something fun and playful, kind of a cartoony sci-fi blaster, right? So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab in my light box, I'm going to grab this DynoX 128 to get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my move and I'm going to turn off my X symmetry and just kind of expand this out a little bit. This is going to be essentially the body of the weapon. And I'm going to jump out of my perspective view and stay in this kind of a 2D orthographic camera. Holding down the Shift key, I can snap to the side view. And if you hold on the Alt key and release the Alt key, that will allow you to zoom in case you're new to ZBrush. And one of the new tools that are here now in ZBrush is if you hold on Control and Shift, you can go to your knife tools, right? So let's grab something like the knife rectangular tool. And now if I hold on the Control, I'm going to go to my draw. And then if I hold on the Control and Shift, I can slice, for example, let's slice the front of this. But before we do, let's do this. Let's hold on Control Shift and press Spacebar. And that's gonna bring up a brand new feature that will allow us to split to parts. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on mine. And now if I hold on Control Shift and make a cut like I usually do, right? So let's cut the front. You can see that it's automatically masked. And that also means if I do Control and click to flip my mask, and grab something like the scale tool, let's go ahead and reposition the scale. And you will see that if I scale this down, this is going to be essentially a separate piece by itself, which is really interesting. So it's allowing me to do two things at once. It's allowing me to slice and cut my mesh, and at the same time it's also giving me that mesh as a separate object so I can do whatever I want with it, which is really cool because you can quickly create complex shapes that normally would take maybe a little longer to create or assemble, right? So in this case, I'm just going to slice the stop off and just simply scale it down. And another thing I could do is let's go ahead and go to our tools, and under subtool, under split, I'm going to do split on mask points, and that's going to give me this as a separate subtool, which will also allow me to duplicate it. And now if I move the duplicate and rotate it, holding down the Shift key, I can just flip it this way. And you can see the number underneath, it says 180 degrees. So I flipped it over. And now if I bring this in, and let's go ahead and subtract this shape and turn on our live booleans, you can see that's going to allow me to in real time kind of decide what kind of indentation I want in my weapon. So I'm quickly kind of utilizing and taking advantage of these pieces that are being sliced, right? All right, very nice. So that's going to be kind of the front of my weapon. For the back, let's go ahead and go back to our base. And you can just select it with your mouse, or if you're on a different layer, you can hold on the Alt key and just simply click on the mesh that you want to be selected, and that will automatically take you to the correct layer. So that's another way to make your selection. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to hold on Control and Shift, and this time I'm going to cut the back of it. So maybe we'll do something along these lines. And I'm going to repeat the same action. I'm going to flip my mask, grab my move brush. I'm going to reposition my scale and just scale this down. And another thing I can do is bring this in, make sure I don't have this big gap. Okay, really cool. I'm going to slice this one more time. So I'm going to go back to draw, do Control Shift. I'm going to press Spacebar and turn off split to parts. And this time when I cut it, it's going to actually be removed right from the mesh. So now I have something like this, which is great. Another thing I would like to do for this weapon is add some kind of a cable on top. So to do this, let's go ahead and go to our brushes and just simply decide which one of these would work as a kind of a sci-fi cable. I think this will be perfect. So I'm gonna click on that. And let's see, so I'm gonna be snapping in my front view, or the side view, right, in the orthographic camera. Again, the perspective is off. All right, and now I'm going to simply draw a line of what I want my cable to look like. So maybe it's something along these lines. Once you're done, one of the things you could do is go to your stroke, and if you don't have this menu parked on the left, you can just find it on the top and use this little circle thingy to park it on your left, which is going to be this little shelf that you can open up and close. So in here you can just drag any panels that you use a lot and the tools that you use the most, right? So that makes sense. Let's go ahead and open up our stroke. And in here under curve, we have a few different options. So in my case, I have bend start and bend and clicked. And I also have lock start on. And with these options, what that's going to allow me to do is kind of shimmy these around and position them maybe as I like them. Another thing we have an option to do is we could change our curve step. So for example, from 1, let's change this to 2 and press enter. And now if we just simply click on this line, you can see that you get a whole different look for your tube, right? So in my case, I actually do like these to be a little thicker. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this back to 1 and click on my line. And once you are happy, and maybe you move these around, and I'm gonna go with something along these lines. I'm gonna click on my mesh to kind of bake my curve in. And as soon as I do, you can see the line disappeared, and now this whole thing turned into a sculptable mesh, right? It's no longer going to be driven by this panel here. So to my next step, I'm going to go ahead and split this into unmasked. So now this tube is going to be in its own layer, which will allow me to snap into kind of this back view. And let's go ahead and put this in position, something like that. All right. And another thing I would like to do, you can clearly see that this is currently needs to be subdivided more. So there's a couple different things we can do. We could go to our geometry and turn on dynamic subdivision. And you can see that it's currently set to 2. And that's going to give you a nice preview of what the tube would look like if it's subdivided. Great. Another thing, since we are building kind of a sci-fi weapon, it would be cool if, let's see if we can change this from the skin shader to something a little more interesting. So I'm gonna select something more metal-like. How about we choose the Z metal right here? I think that makes a little more sense. We can also go ahead and do a quick BPR and see what that looks like so far. I think that looks really cool. For the, it would be really interesting if these had kind of a, since this is a cartoony weapon, let's go ahead and add kind of a large bolt going all the way around. So for that, I'm gonna hold down the Alt key, click on the base of my main shape here, and I'm gonna go to my brushes and let's go ahead and press I for IMM, and let's find something along the lines of these IMM parts that have these screws and bolts kind of built in for us. So I'm just gonna grab one maybe that makes sense. Something like this should work. I'm gonna click on this one, and now if I drag it, you can see that I can drag it right onto my weapon, but I do want to have them going all the way around. So for that, I'm gonna go activate my symmetry and press R for radial symmetry. And that will allow me to, I'm going to leave this on X. This will allow me to insert multiple screws at the same time. So I'm going to make them nice and large. I think that totally works for this kind of a stylistic weapon. I do want to subdivide them. So for that, I'm going to go back to split and do split unmasked. Select my layer and do Control D. And I think that looks great. Let's go ahead and preview that as well. Really nice. For the front of the weapon, let's do something really simple. I'm just going to go to my subtools. Let's go ahead and do insert. Let's grab a ring or a donut and make sure that it's selected. I'm going to go back to my move tool, jump out of the perspective view, move this out so I can see it. And you can currently see that it's actually interfering with our live booleans, right? With this shape here. So to fix this, let's go ahead and go back to the layer that is being used as a live boolean and click on this little button here. That will allow us to tell ZBrush that do not go past this line, right? So I'm going to turn this back on, and now you can see if I grab my donut here, I can move it around without interfering with the live booleans, right? Amazing. So now let's go ahead and hold on the shift key and flip this 90 degrees. And you can see there's a number underneath showing you that this is 90 degrees. I do want to make sure that it's aligned in the center, right? That's going to be the front of my weapon. So that's great. I'm going to put this here. Another thing I would like to do is, let's go ahead and go to geometry, remesher. Let's turn off adaptive. Target count, I'm going to switch it to 1. And my adaptive size, I'm going to switch it to 0 because I want my grid to be the same size. And I'm just going to do a Z remesh real quick. If I turn on my polyframe, you can see what that looks like. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little gear icon. And let's go ahead and go to extender and just simply drag this extender out into something that looks more like this. I'm going to click on my gear, do accept. And let's figure out how far we want the front of the weapon to be, or how big. I think this is nice, nice and chunky. Again, we can either press Ctrl D to subdivide it, or we can go to our dynamic subdivision and turn this on, right? And if you needed to, you can dial this up to make it even smoother. So that totally works. All right, so this is what we have so far. Let's go ahead and make a connection between the front of this blaster and the body of it. So I'm going to go back to Subtool and let's just decide what we want to do. Maybe let's just reuse this shape here. So I'm going to say duplicate, grab my move, maybe put this in position, and I'm just going to scale this in and scale it down. Something like that I think is great. I'm going to press Control and just drag to make maybe another one. And if I release Control and just keep dragging, you can see that yet another one is being added with the same distance, right? Which also means if I press Control and drag, that will remove the mask. I can center my pivot and maybe put this into a better position. Now, one of the things we could do to make this a little more interesting is maybe change the shape of this, right? So it currently looks like this, and it does look interesting and fun, but maybe we can make it even more playful if we wanted to. So for that, let's go ahead and go into settings, and let's grab something like the, for example, let's do deformer, see what that gives us. I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, and holding down Control, I'm just going to drag a selection and do Control click to invert the selection. And now if you grab the middle, you can scale this in and just create kind of a fun taper effect that totally works for, I think, this type of a weapon, right? I'm going to go to my gear and do accept to commit my settings. And there's clearly a gap between the front and this shape here. So to fix that, I'm just going to go back to my very front shape and just move this into position. So it's a little kind of a watertight, right? Very nice. So now we have something like this. Let's jump out of the perspective view and take a look. If we wanted to, we can do another BPR. And that's looking really cool. What else can we do? We definitely need a handle for this guy. And for the handle, let's just do something super simple. I'm just gonna insert a, let's insert a sphere. And let's make a handle out of the sphere so it's nice and bubbly. Again, go into my perspective view, orthographic view, and let's just simply go and kind of shape this to what we like. Maybe something along these lines. Totally works. Just keep it nice and simple. I am also going to duplicate this and hide it in case I want to make a cool kind of a bubbly trigger as well. And for the handle, let's go back to the handle and let's just do something super simple. So I'm gonna go on the side view or the back view, do Control Shift, press spacebar, make sure my split to parts is not on. I'm gonna activate my symmetry, and I do want to activate it on Z. I'm gonna go to draw to get rid of that gizmo. Hold on Control Shift and just simply slice the side of my sphere here, and that's gonna give me a really cool, interesting look for my handle. If I wanted to, I can also go to Move and maybe shape this a little better so it looks even more like a handle, right? Maybe we can do something like this. All right, to get rid of these this grid looking thing, we can do Control D a couple times so it's nice and smooth. And now if I do Control D, you can see that it is affecting this a little bit, and let's say I'm not happy with that. So to fix this, I'm gonna go with geometry, I'm gonna delete lower, and I'm gonna do another slice. And that's gonna give me what I'm looking for. I think that's a little bit better. All right. And finally, let's go ahead and grab our second sphere, put it into position. I'm gonna definitely turn it on so I can see it. And let's go ahead and scale this down and do something, maybe something like this. I'm gonna grab my move brush and make it just a little bit smaller and maybe just do something a little more interesting. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Another thing you can do is you can always use the spiral as well. It's a cool way to kind of give you even more playful bends that are really fun. And if you hold on the Alt key, it will actually go the other way. So you can create some really interesting effects with this brush. It's a lot of fun. So you can play around with it. And honestly, I would love to... All right, and let's just go ahead and maybe cut these sides so it matches our handle a little bit better, and we have something along these lines. Now, one other thing I would like to do is I'm going to insert a box, and I'm going to scale my box down, and I'm going to create kind of a little indentation that is right above this trigger. I think that's going to make it even more interesting as far as the detail goes. So I'm going to do something along these lines. Maybe push it in a little more. And let's go ahead and move this all the way up and do a subtract. Now you can see that there's a little indentation where the trigger is coming from. I think that's a little more, maybe a little more interesting. And we can of course change the scale of it or the width of it as we wish, right? Because this is using live booleans. All right, so I think I'm going to conclude this tutorial here. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. All right, so to conclude this video, one message I have for you guys is if you want to take your model from ZBrush as a high resolution model and bring it into Maya, for example, for beautiful rendering and assigning materials. I do have 2 tutorials that show how to do that. So I have this one that was just made, and this one will show you how you can take your ZBrush models like we just made and bring it into Maya to set up some beautiful rendering. So this is one. The other one that shows that as well, it shows you how to take this ZBrush earthquake character and bring it into Maya for rendering as well. So I have 2. So for that reason, I'm not going to show how I set up the rendering for this Sci-Fi blaster. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in our next video.